Good morning, mathematicians. We are looking at our Section A checkpoint in our unit Fractions as Quotients and Fraction Multiplication from Unit 2 of Illustrative Math. Now, number 1 starts us off and it says 5 friends equally share 3 liters of water. How many liters of water does each person get? Show or explain your reasoning. Now, as we reread this, we're going to start paying special attention to our numbers. We have 5 what? Well, we have 5 friends, right? And 5 friends are sharing what? They're sharing 3 liters of water. Now, what we are figuring is how many liters of water each person in the end is going to get. So now I've really thought about the meaning of each of those numbers. So what is the whole thing that is going to get broken up and divided or shared? It is the 3 liters of water that are going to be broken up or shared. Now, what are they going to be broken up and shared among? They're going to be broken up and shared among 5 friends. So I know that this is the division expression that I could use to represent this situation. And I know that 3 divided by 5 is the same thing as 3 divided by 5, or 3 over 5 as a fraction. And what does that 3/5 represent? Well, the 3/5 represents liters of water. So I'm going to go ahead and label that it's 3/5 of a liter. And I can actually make that singular instead of plural. Okay, now I am also asked to explain or show our reasoning. And many times in this particular section of Unit 2, we have used tape diagrams. So let's go ahead and use this as an opportunity to go ahead and think about how I would show this with a tape diagram. Now, I am drawing out 3 tape diagrams, and each of those tape diagrams is representing what? Well, each of these is representing 1 liter of water. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide each of those liters among the 5 friends that are going to share them. So this first one is going to get broken up into 5 equal parts. The second one is going to get broken up into 5 equal parts, and the exact same process for the third one. Now we want to show in our tape diagram how much of this first liter each friend is going to get. Well, each friend is going to get that 1/5 of a liter. Now in the second liter, each friend is going to get 1/5. And in the third liter, each friend is going to get 1/5. 1/5 plus 1/5 plus 1/5 equals 3/5. So we could go ahead and just finish this off with a statement that communicates the whole idea. The whole idea is that each friend will get how much of a liter? Well, we found it to be 3/5 a liter of water. Notice, boys and girls, we were asked to either show or explain our reasoning. We really showed it with the tape diagram. This statement that we wrote, really the caption, doesn't really explain our problem solving or our reasoning, but again, it just makes sure to clarify that we did take that diagram all the way to the next step of figuring what the value is. What is the answer to the question we were asked? How many liters of water does each person get? Well, that finishes off our number 1. And we are ready for our second question. Our second question here really is asking us to represent or explain the relationship between division and fractions. That's really what we're asked in this particular question. We see a tape diagram and we are asked to write a division equation that matches the diagram, and then of course we will show or explain our thinking. So the first thing we want to ask ourselves is, how many wholes are we starting with that, yes, then are broken up and divided? But to get our first number, our dividend, we need to know how many wholes did we start with that were then divided. Well, I can clearly see that I have 1 whole here a second hole here, a third hole here, and a fourth hole here. So how many holes do I have that are broken up and divided? I have 4. That will be the dividend in this particular division expression. Now, how many parts was each of those holes broken into? Well, I see one part here, a second part here, and a third part here. So each of those was broken into 3 parts. So my second number, my divisor, is going to be 3 because I'm seeing all 4 of my holes broken into 3 parts. Now I know that 4 divided by 3 can also be shown as 4 divided by 3. So notice how I have taken it from a division expression to an actual fraction. Now, let's think to ourselves how we could go ahead and explain how we know this 4 and how we know this 3. I would start with a statement like this. I would say, there are 4 holes and those 4 holes are really the total that we're starting with, right? So I'm going to say there are 4 holes total. And now I'm going to get into how they're divided. So I'm going to say, and they are divided into how many equal groups? 3 equal groups. We can say equal groups or 3 equal shares. That would be another way that certainly we could write this. Now let's get into how they actually are shaded. So let's say that one of those shares is shaded for each hole. And because of that, in all, we see 4/3 in total with shading. Okay, so that is certainly our division expression, our fraction, and an explanation of the reasoning. We have one more question for this particular checkpoint, and this really reminds me of our last, I believe it was, cool down from lesson 5. Here we are asked to explain why the division expression 10 divided by 4 equals the same thing as the fraction 10 divided by 4. I'm going to put this in a separate color just so that we can make sure we're keeping our explanation for number 3 separate from number 4. Now let's start off with talking a little bit about what's happening in our division problem here. I'm going to write that if I divide 10 things, because 10 is representing that whole that we are going to break up or divide. So if I divide 10 things each into 4 equal shares, and take one of each, that is, and now let's rewrite our division expression, 10 divided by 4. And that works since there are 4 equal shares in 10. Okay, so that gives a lot of clarity to the division expression, but it's leading us to the fraction as well. Now let's clarify that fraction. Since each share is 1/4, since each share is 1/4, and there are 10 of those, 10 of those shares. One for each. That is also, and now let's rewrite that fraction. That is also 10/4. Okay, so boys and girls, what we are seeing here is we are seeing a good explanation that gives our reasoning behind why 10 divided by 4 is the same thing as our fraction 10/4. That completes our section A cool down.